Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Adam Dorsey, a psychologist in Silicon Valley, and I am the host of Super Psyched, a podcast dedicated to supercharging your life. Each episode contains fun, high-quality interviews with experts looking at psychology from all angles. Super Psyched is your tool to get more of what you want in your life and less of what you don't. It was a Saturday evening in October 2019. My wife and I had been attending lectures and workshops for the past 10 hours at a conference about the connection between science and spirituality. It was after 6 and our brains were full and our stomachs were empty. We wanted to get out for dinner. However, the MC encouraged the 800 of us to stay in our seats to hear a music duo that was the best he'd seen in the history of the conference. I was skeptical until they took the stage. To give you a sense of what I heard, here's a 45-second sample.
This life of love and mystery to awaken in the deepness and the dark of the unknown. Sweet modern song, nature sings a hymn in the winds of dawn, and I can hardly wait till we sing along.
Two songs were played, with that one leading the way. I had tears in my eyes. I hadn't heard music that moved my heart like that in years. My wife and I looked at each other, and clearly each of us had a deeply emotional experience. Our desires from wanting to bolt and to get to dinner changed to wanting to sit and listen to the duo's music for as long as they'd play. How is it that the airways created by music can touch us so deeply? There is mounting scientific evidence that the old saying, "music hath charms," is actually true. Studies from peer-reviewed journals indicate music can even provide physical healing, as it can bolster our immune system. Oh yeah, and that brilliant music duo? You get to spend an hour with them in this very episode. Keith Baumann and Katie Gray of Sea Stars are the perfect people to share their wisdom about music and the psyche. There is so much I could say about them individually and as a duo, but I will save the majority of that for the show notes. There's just something about these two that reaches the heart of the listener, and I'm not alone. Hoda Kotb of the Today Show on NBC heard their music and was so deeply moved that she invited them to sing their song Time in front of the national audience on her show. Kurt and Katie are married and have been partners in music for years. Katie writes and records her own music and has performed live on Jimmy Kimmel and worked with numerous artists, including Annie DeFranco. Kurt currently performs and records with Sea Stars and his other band, The Burned. He has performed in major venues, including festivals like South by Southwest. After this episode, you will get to hear two Sea Stars songs in their entirety. And in the show notes, there are links to other videos and ways to listen to them and The Burned. But for now, listen in as Katie, Kurt, and I do a deep dive into music and the psyche. Kurt and Katie, welcome to Super Psyched. I'm so happy to have you.
Thanks, Adam. We're happy to be here.
Right
Yay.
on. And there might be just a little bit of a delay to the dear listener because I believe we're speaking to an island off Washington. Is it Orca Island? Which island are you?
Yeah, Orcas Island is what it is.
Orcas. Yes.
Yeah, we're out in a bubble within a bubble. That's where we live.
Right on. Well, I'm going to dive into a little bit of science because there has been some really exciting research that is showing something that we've all intuitively known in our bones, that music actually can heal. There are signs that music can provide additional boosts to our immune system. And I was just kind of wondering, do you have any stories or ideas around how music can be healing?
Yeah, I mean, we were actually just talking this morning about how good it feels to drum, to get back to the basics and simply feel rhythm. And when I think about the healing power of music, where I go personally is I think of our world this day and age where so many are dealing with anxiety and fear, and they're in a constant state of distraction and survival mode. And we're not in a space of homeostasis. We are in an altered space of stress. And when I go back to when we were in a very calm, relaxing space, for many of us, some of us experienced trauma in the womb, but for most, I think the mother's heartbeat was the sound, the embodiment of comfort. I think that vibration and sound is perhaps one of the first experiences we have to bring us to a place of soothing relief. And, when I think about the power of music and how music can calm and bring us to a soothing place of relief, I'm reminded of that heartbeat of the drum, of the listening and the reminding of not being alone, of connection and being held, of the pumping of the life force energy that surrounds us, And I think within that, there's incredible healing,
So you're able to trace just our love of sound all the way to how primal it was for us before we really had much of awareness of anything. It was present, and it's an ongoing presence, and can provide us, it sounds like, with comfort and some type of healing. Perhaps even there may be even something that we'll discover later on that's evolutionarily relevant to the sound of a mother's heartbeat in utero to the child that actually helps the child with the homeostasis. I wonder if, perhaps there's even research out there right now, but I like where you're going with this, Katie.
Yeah. Adding to that, if I may, the power of music, music itself and each musical note being a tuned vibration where everything is vibration, right? Even like the densest matter is actually space vibrate, And so with music, you can go within the space and actually alter it. And so if you intentionally aim that on a healing level, for sure music would be healing. Like you said, it's all intuitive. We've all intuitively done that, but I'd be really fascinated with the science behind it.
Yeah, it's really encouraging. And I love it when science actually supports stuff that we know intuitively and allows us to really delve into healthful activities that allow us to really, birth our best selves, so to speak. And I'm wondering, because music really shapes how we think and we feel, I think that's fairly apparent. How can we go about choosing the, quote, right music to match our mood or perhaps our intentions for the day?
When I think of that question, I think of the subconscious. I think of this porous tapestry that is constantly absorbing and ingesting life experience and translating that into our understanding of what is. And so oftentimes we listen to music without consciously thinking about the music. We're feeling the music. We're in our heart space feeling it rather than listening to it and studying it with our thoughts and our brains. And we have to be aware that whatever we're feeling is probably getting absorbed into that porous tapestry of our subconscious field. And when I think about lyrics, especially, those are words. We are these creatures that have adapted to communicate through words. And so if we're listening to words that aren't speaking a message that will essentially better our well-being, I think it can be very destructive. I think of the music today that, I know I sound really old saying this, but that a lot of the youth are listening to, and it makes me so sad. I think, honestly, the most healing music, and in my opinion, we make music with the intention for it to be a beautiful, heartfelt experience. But I think some of the most powerful music doesn't have words at all. It's just truly speaking to the feeling. We don't understand what the birds are saying. We don't understand what the birds are saying. We don't understand the language of the waves crashing against the shore. We don't understand the wind. but we feel all of those sounds. We feel the music of rain, falling on the windowsill, and it gives us a sense of relaxation. And, that's the way that the whole collective voice is sharing its song. And I think oftentimes we don't need to hear words, just being aware of the subconscious field and just hearing the music everywhere.
Wow. And Kurt, I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of that, choosing music.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, music is it's more of a mood enhancer, right? It's not so cerebral as much as it is how you feel inside. I know that, music can take you to deep places within the heart, or it can make you feel really excited, or it also depends on what you're sort of approaching that day. If you need some like energy to, dig in the ground, and, let's get some Pantera going.
Let's bring on the BPM.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But also, if you wake up and you're sort of somber and sad, sometimes it's nice to allow music to take you even further, to lean into that feeling. Or if you don't want to, you polarize it and you play something happy. And so it really is an opportunity to sort of make a choice in your music decision to affect your mood and like take you into a totally different direction. I mean, it completely relates to the vibration conversation we were having a minute ago. It's all related.
I love where the two of you are going. You're kind of speaking almost to the hypnotic effect of music, that it bypasses the brain and goes directly into the heart, and it goes right into the subconscious mind rather than kind of the more conscious mind. If it's good music, cerebral music is not all that fantastic. We're really looking for a body experience as well as something to program our unconscious. And Katie, you don't sound very old at all when you say that people who are listening to perhaps, I was hearing, I'm inferring that you're speaking about the misogynistic and the glorification of crime, and how our brains actually get programmed over time to think, oh, that's the new reality, or that's okay, or that's who I'm going to become. Even if they don't necessarily become that, it's somehow in the cellular level if you're listening to it musically because of the hypnotic effect. That's kind of where I go, but I'm wondering if that's what you were speaking to.
Yeah, thanks for offering clarification. When I actually said that, I was referring to music that is inspired by opiates. And it's very common right now. It's popular, and it is what's happening right now. And we kind of joke around that each different genre of music is infused by, the spirit of a plant. Like it's definitely infused by the ganja, it moves with the frequency of that plant. Some feels like, Colorado mountain beer drinking music. It's like, we're in a bar in Ireland and it's beer drinking music. Or, there's these other foreign frequencies that feel very unnatural, and they don't feel like they're naturally inspired from this natural realm. They feel created and contrived, and they don't feel like, I don't see with them personally the salvaging of the medicine somewhere within that. I don't feel the Great Spirit having been a part of its creation. I feel as though there's an emptiness, and it feels like music that's inspired by prescription drugs. And that is what brings me such sincere sadness, because as the youth, with being so porous and so open and so ready and hungry for life experience, because their subconscious is getting programmed with an understanding of what is, they are realizing it's good to just be in an unconscious state and be depressed and move slow and sleep all day and be taking continual prescription drugs and take more and more of them, and then it's understandable if you commit suicide. It's just kind of how it is, and it feels like this dark nothingness that isn't offering nutrients, and that's what I find so sad, knowing how popular that music is right now.
So you're speaking of a numbing effect in lieu of kind of a vitalizing effect.
Yeah, it's a numbing. It's where music, I feel, is it's feeding the distraction. It's feeding the encouragement to be numb, to turn off the awareness and just sink into a sleep state, And I think, of course, kids are filled with anxiety and nervous tension and insecurity, and so they're looking for a way to feel that sense of relief. But there are so many ways to soothe ourselves that a numbing prescription drug is such an unfortunate choice.
So, Katie, in lieu of the numbing prescription drug infused in the music, what would be your prescription musically to perhaps a numbed out youth who's listening to that kind of music?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if I could have my way.
Yes, you're the doctor.
Okay, good. I'm the doctor. I would say, I mean, for me, I would say, I'd say, okay, let's imagine that I've got this group of young teenagers and, preteens, and I've got this whole group of youth, and I've just convinced them to all turn it off, and now they're looking at me. I would say, okay, you guys, I know this is going to seem really foreign, but we're actually going to completely turn off all of our technology, and we're going to go outside for a while. We're going to go on a really long hike, and we're going to listen to all these different sounds that are creating a song. And I want us to hear the song that's being sung that we don't hear when we have our headphones in. Okay, we're going to listen to the birds. We're going to listen to the wind. And I want each of you to find a sound, a unique sound. What do you hear? And I would want the youth to go outside. I would want them to feel earthed and rejuvenated by the life force of nature and creation. And I would want them to change the way they listen, and breathe oxygen and feel inspired to be a part of this collective life force energy rather than this sad, empty, dying energy.
It's amazing to hear you say that, Katie, because when I heard you and Kurt play for the very first time, it was 6 p.m. after a really long day. My wife and I had been there since 8 a.m., but obviously we'd been awake since 6 a.m. So we were pretty tired after lots of lectures and lots of energy in the room, 800 people in that room. And then, of course, Maurizio gets up on the stage and says, I'm sorry, you can't go to dinner yet. You have to listen to these two musicians. And I was thinking to myself, oh, crap, I kind of want to just go to dinner. And then the two of you just dropped in. And it was an IV right into my heart. And I look at my wife, both of us have tears in our eyes, because I'm guessing on some level, you and Kurt have spent a lot of time tapping into those nature sounds that really bring us back to something far more fundamental.
Yeah, that's, first off, that's so beautiful that you had that experience. I'm always very grateful when something like that happens, because that's what it's all about, right? Like, music should be able to just sort of move you to tears and bring you to having an experience that's much greater than yourself. Katie and I both definitely, as she was just describing taking the kids out into nature, I'm like, oh, that sounds so beautiful. Because that really is my favorite song. The song of nature, the sound of the wind in the trees, and all the things she said, the birds, the rain falling, all of this. And that's where this really primordial music sort of moves within our being, is on that level. And I'd say maybe we don't consciously try to put that in our music, but unconsciously it infuses pretty much everything we do. A lot of people, when they hear us, they say space is kind of a huge part of our sound. So we say that space is sort of our third band member.
Yeah, that's
sometimes,
awesome.
Because it's that patience and that time and space in between the notes that there's a sense of peace and an offering of something deeper than what the thinking mind wants to give you. And if that makes any sense, I'm not sure. It's very abstract, but We're
Yeah,
aiming
no,
for beauty. That's what I know.
well, just having listened to your music extensively, both with Katie and with the Burned, and with the Burned with Katie, as well as some music that you've been holding back on me, some Guatemalan music, Guatemalan psychedelic, that is just so unbelievably good. I mean, it's all really tapped in to these. I mean, it's immediately, like, it goes immediately right to the heart and the body, your stuff. And
Yes.
so I think you're preaching, like, and the crazy thing is, incredible technicians, who are clearly, technically amazing with your instruments, and your voices, and somehow you found a way to to tap in, and translate those kind of more deep natural experiences into your instruments. And I just want to salute you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I've perhaps I was off. Also, I want to just take a moment. I was speaking to the lyrics that sometimes might be misogynistic or perhaps antisocial in nature. And that did not connect with you, Katie, when I was suggesting that as partially ailing the youth, the listener. Is that inconsistent with your experience? And really, no problem if it is.
No, I think I agreed with you as well. I think when I was making that point and answering your question, I was speaking to the depression. I think, a lot of time music, even with the lyrics and the
misogynistic, women hating stuff.
Yes. Not my favorite word, clearly. I don't use it very often.
It's not a pleasant reality either. Yeah.
It's not a pleasant reality. But even with that type of music, I do see the underlying uplift of the energy. I do see, like, someone needing to pump energy into their bodies. And the lyrics are very detrimental. They can be very toxic. But what I was specifically looking to is a new wave of music that I've become aware of that is opiate induced. And it's very popular right now. And that's the music that I feel a concern. I feel really intrigued, but also really concerned. And, just my own personal path of understanding trauma and working with people dealing with trauma, and understanding the importance of going deep, of opening ourselves up and not becoming numb, but looking at the truth and going as deep as we possibly can so as to recover ourselves that are hidden and locked inside. I'm concerned when we numb ourselves and when we're encouraged, or children feel encouraged, or anyone feels encouraged to become distracted and numb, because especially for us, when we make music, I think it's our intention that we don't hold back, that we give ourselves permission to go as deep as possible. And, our music doesn't resonate with everyone. It doesn't resonate with anyone. People describe our music as psychedelic and therapeutic, and not everybody wants to go into their psyche. Not everybody wants to take psychedelics or go to therapy. A lot of people have been so traumatized that they want to stay in a space where they're numb, where they feel protected and safe. They're scared to go deep. And I have compassion for everyone, but also concern.
Wow. Adding to that, Adam, I am deeply concerned personally about the lyrics, the glorification of crime and the misogynistic stuff that you're mentioning. Like, I can't do it. Like, as soon as I hear it, it's very difficult for me. And I have deep concern for that, because I see kids being really influenced by that. And then, it's such an age of, like, sort of finding your identity and finding what's cool, and this is being glorified as something that's cool, and it's very destructive. I mean, words are extremely powerful, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, I don't think, because it ties back into that the power of vibration. Words are basically intentions wrapped up in vibration and then pumped out into the world. And so you do that with music behind it, which is moving you on an emotional level. And then you're pumping out these vibrations of a message that isn't of the highest caliber. Ooh, it's intense, man.
It's intense. You know, it's funny. I remember being a freshman in college and being obsessed with the Smiths and just sitting in my room for hours at a time, just listening to that and allowing myself, not that the music's bad and not that it doesn't have its place, but I was trying to work out some deep stuff, clearly. And it wasn't the right vehicle to really tap into my psyche in terms of what I was needing. It kind of kept me more numb and hidden and self-absorbed. So I really personally resonate with those ideas. And I agree with you, Katie, in terms of the idea that some people are traumatized and really wary of entering some of the spaces that you and Kurt provide through your music. I want to share speaking of the unconscious and all of that, and hypnosis and the hypnotic effects. There's a great quote by psychoanalyst Carl Jung, and it makes sense to bring him up today on May the 4th, because May the 4th is also known as Star Wars Day, and Carl Jung's work really informed so much of the archetypes present in Star Wars. But one of the things that he said was, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And, you know, I noticed that when the two of you write, you seem to capture the entire human experience, including some of the real dark places of our shadow world. I was wondering, what compels you to write in such a comprehensive way?
I think for us, we're just devoted to the truth. And we are devoted to our true feelings. As we're also a couple, you know, we're married, we're lovers, we're a partner. And in our beings, who we are naturally as people, we both tend to be people that are communicators. You know, if neither one of us is non-confrontational. You know, if there's an issue, we're like, well, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on. And I think that allows us to both be comfortable talking about, singing about, sharing about real experiences. And I think also, you know, within those experiences that can be considered dark, I don't know if there are any dark experiences. You know, when I think of the night, the night is one of my favorite parts of the day, is when the sun goes down and everyone is sleeping and the night creatures come out and walk through the forest, and it's a little spooky, but it's necessary. You know, death is a necessary part of life. You know, so we find ourselves often bringing death into the conversation because death is truth. Death is a part of the inevitable truth, and it feels so aligned for us to sing from our hearts. And if we're genuinely singing from our hearts, then we're singing from a place of trust and love. And if we were afraid to sing about death, then we would be singing from a place of fear. But it feels relieving, and it feels natural for us to include pain and separation and death and the struggles of life integrated into this weave of beauty that comes out sonically, to just bring the whole honest picture into the room and into the conversation, this unfolding, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's the depths and the darkness that actually define the light, because you have to sort of have the juxtaposition of those two to be able to really understand either or. As a songwriter, you know, I think I'd say Katie and I both, it's very important that when we put something out into the world, that it be really rooted in something that is real. And personally, time and the sense of the limited amount of time that we actually have here on this planet to live and do and be is really what sort of defines who we are. It's the depth and the deepness and those dark places that oftentimes we all shy away from. That's what really makes life worth it and gives life its, full vital essence of being. And so I'd say somewhere inside we try to tap into that magic and sort of present that. I wouldn't say all our material is just like, and it sounds like, oh my God, these guys must be really depressing and dark. Jeez, I don't know if I want to listen to their music, but it's not really that way. Sure, there's a sweet, somber sadness in it, but it's very heartfelt and heart opening and real. At least that's my intention behind it.
Yeah.
There's a sweet, somber sadness in life,
And I imagine that a lot of it kind of goes back to the awareness that we know we will die.
Yeah. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. If we were going to live forever and we're not going to die, it would just, nothing would really have a sense of meaning or purpose. So there's a beauty in that.
It's funny when you were describing listening to Pantera and digging, I was thinking about some of the Hindu gods and how, there is a god in my limited understanding of Hinduism, that there's a god of destruction and that Pantera has a place for digging. And because it's kind of it's a little destructive in a way, but it's for the sake of creation and making room for something else. Is that kind of how you were 100%. Holding it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a time and place for all of it, right? Like you can't say one is better than the other. It's all part of God and all part of creation. It's just, what you're choosing to create at that time. Like Pantera is amazing. Come on, man. Some of those riffs are incredible. I don't know if I'd necessarily put it on all the time, but, I'm definitely on road trips, like turn the volume up and just go for it. Yeah.
Totally. Somebody in my life, he loves listening to Sepultura and says he describes it as controlled chaos. And it's so, oddly enough, hypnotic and healing for him to kind of enter that shadow space from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool, Kurt.
I think also, just adding to that, and I could be totally off on this, but it's very masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Like those riffs and the aggression behind it. And somewhere I think there might be a healthy way to release that energy by listening to that music or creating that music that, keeps you out of jail or from like hurting yourself or something like that. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. As somebody who really appreciates the work of Carl Jung, as I mentioned earlier, and ways of channeling the shadow, we all have these different parts. I was actually talking with a friend about BoJack Horseman, the great cartoon on Netflix, and how all of the characters really are within us to some extent. There are these nihilistic characters. There are these kind of rose-colored glasses characters, and they all exist in us and are represented at different times. So I'm just thinking about like how some of the beats of rap can really just go right into the body so fast, and they can really go into some shadowy places that might actually be a healthier way of channeling some otherwise destructive ideas. And the same with speed metal and other forms of music, that they may be a way of representing the shadow in a less harmful way.
Totally.
Very cool. Just pivot here for a second, because the two of you have had the have had the experience of being on stage in front of lots of people, seeming strangers until you start playing your music, and then all of a sudden, if it connects, these former strangers have this new common denominator. And back in the 80s and before then, cigarette lighters were used to kind of show solidarity with the music. Now we use smartphones with pictures of flames. But I'm just wondering about that common denominator of just getting an entire crowd of former strangers to be connected around this common denominator of the music itself. Like that, from where you sit or from where you stand on stage, like how does that music even happen? How does that magic? How does the magic of that connection even happen?
I'll go first. As soon as I had that visual, imagining a large group of people coming together, I see a stage, and whether it's music or an activist or someone that's speaking, and whether it's a religious gathering, just having people come together in the same shared frequency of connection. I just see a mycelial network. I think of trees that are speaking to one another and connecting underneath the surface through this network of connection, and the importance of being connected, the importance of sharing something common, sharing our fragility, sharing our resources and our energy and our ideas and our creative life force. I think it's a reflection of who we are as a species. We need connection. We need to come together. We need to unite and feel that essence of connection. I think of people struggling with depression or addiction or a deep sense of disconnection and loss of purpose. I'm continually brought back to the importance of them being brought to an understanding of connection, of knowing they're not alone, knowing that they're a part of something so much greater than themselves. And if we can somehow be a part of that mycelial network igniting and bringing people to a feeling that they're not alone, that they are connected to a larger group outside of themselves, what an honor. What greater action could we be a part of than to be a part of something like that,
Gorgeous. Kurt, your thoughts on that?
I'd say when we go up to perform, obviously it's something that we aim for. Because that solidarity, that feeling when you're on stage and then you sense that the crowd is with you as well, then it just swirls out into something that's a feeling greater than any of us that are taking part in that. And we truly are connected at that point. It's not always easy. There's a lot that you're kind of going up against energetically. You're going into a cold room sometimes. There's people that have never heard you. And like you mentioned at Sand, everybody's hungry and
exactly.
And, like there are obstacles in your path as well as your own in your own mind. You're just like, oh, am I going to play this chord correctly? What's the words of this chorus? There's all sorts of, there's a lot of energy swirling all at once. But when you step on that stage, you let it go and you just show up and you completely offer what you have to offer to the crowd, and also just the energy to the room and to yourself in a way, because that's what it's all about. You practice and you rehearse and you wrote these songs for this moment. So just forget the mental nonsense. Show up, offer what you have in the most open way that you possibly can, and let the energy work. And it happened. It'll just happen. Granted, you're not going to win everyone over all the time. We always hope we will, but people like to dislike sometimes, and
people love to hate
that
sometimes.
So you can be that offering as well, and that's cool too. Whatever, you can't be attached to any of it, But Katie and I, when we perform, often it's not really the music where you're just going to scream and yell at the end. It ends in silence and contemplation, and we've learned that actually that means we've achieved a level of solidarity with the crowd. Like everyone's silent. Like how beautiful is that? We've also brought this music into bars, which was the worst decision we've ever made. I think we've probably done it a couple of times and we're like, never again. Cause it's not a place to find solidarity for the music we're doing.
Totally. That's why you heard me scream like your music in a bar. Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Oh, it's just painful.
Yeah, totally. Like
for everybody.
I was just going to add on to that, Adam. Just a quick little thought to add on to what Kurt is saying is that it also feels like we train ourselves to enhance our muscle memory, to be in our thinking minds in rehearsal, to write out the lyrics, to invest the thinking mind into creating a vessel that is tight and strong so that when we truly do the work, it's not us. We've just created a really incredible channel for something greater than us to reach all of the people that we channeled that for in the first place. So it feels as though, if we're doing it correctly, then it's not about us. And
Yeah.
if it's not about us, then we're not insecure because there's no self-esteem to protect, because there is no self-esteem because it's not about us. It's about being in service to get a message and a healing frequency that is so desperately trying to reach people in so many different ways right now. And if we can just get the muscle memory tight and get everything working and we do our part to make the vessel strong, then we can just be the container that lets it come in and then be released to where it needs to go to nourish and to be shared. And I think in our earlier years of making music, maybe we were more connected to the ego, connected to it being a way to feel liked and to feel loved, to feel a sense of purpose. But as we've grown as individuals and together, we've been together for 11 and a half years. So we've done a lot of spiritual work since we first started making music almost 12 years ago. And that's changed a lot because it's not about us anymore. And it's about how can we open ourselves, give ourselves permission to open enough so that they get what they need,
It's interesting how you're describing your evolution here. Since it is Star Wars Day, I'm going to bring in Luke Skywalker, how he just wanted, in the first episode, just wanted to get off the planet and off the farm. And it was not about being in service so much initially. And then you watch his evolution over time, the kind of the hero's journey that is talked about by Joseph Campbell, still informed by Jung, and how it's so similar perhaps to the catalyst that may have started you and Kurt off. Like your reasons for going into music may be very different from the reasons that you now play music.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're trying to do now is really tap into something that's true, vital, so that the dash between your birth date and your death date is meaningful, and that you leave it all out on the field before you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because our lives have changed a lot in the past 6 years. We, for the first half of our relationship, we identified ourselves as musicians, and that was our focus. And we lived in Los Angeles and Austin, Texas, and we did a lot of shows in Denver. And we were really pushing the music because I think we were gaining a sense of self and permission to accept ourselves by, being acknowledged and feeling like we were doing something productive. But then my mom had a stroke and started showing signs of dementia. And we made the choice to come home, I don't know that we necessarily realized as heroes that we were being brought home to chop wood and carry water. But we've spent the last 6 years as caregivers. And as far as what that's done for our understanding of life and how that's affected our music, it's been profound, because we see the dying process. We see the importance of family, the importance of being in service, how greatly it is not about us. And, we live together with my family and we care for her. That's part of our life, more so than even focusing on music. At times, we're just caregivers, So.
Yeah. So there was a higher calling. And to go back to the idea of chopping wood and carrying water, that's, I believe, the Zen or a Buddhist idea of going back to something fairly basic. Hearing that calling and doing that must have also really added a lot of glue to your relationship by realizing, oh my gosh, I'm with a guy who will totally follow me to Orcas Island. Sorry, the totally vernacular there. But who will follow me to Orcas Island and do this. This is the guy I'm with.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I definitely saw Kurt transform from being this. I mean, Kurt is stunningly beautiful. He's extremely talented. He has German genetics, so he's just has this incredible body shape. Whereas I'm like Indian, so I just am designed to just have a little more cushion. And he's just a really remarkable human. And he's the archetype of the rock star.
He totally is.
and he's laughing right now.
But I've almost never seen anybody who like embodies rock star more than Kurt. But yes, so I just needed to agree with that.
But the thing about that is there's also something Kurt, in a sense, I think probably identified with that, but he also was, you're somewhat protected. You're somewhat protected when you, are you there, Adam?
I'm here, but Kurt bailed. He'll be back, I'm sure.
He'll be back, I think. It's okay. You can hear me.
You got uncomfortable with all the love we were throwing his way.
He got uncomfortable. But the reality, what I was going to say is that when we play out those roles of being out of touch, out of reach, being the rock star, being someone whose identity is on stage, you don't leave a lot of space for true connection because everyone around you is an audience member. Everyone around you is a fan. And without in any way wanting to offend Kurt, I think that when we identify with being, in a sense, being a star or being famous and being admired, we lose the opportunity to have a real, genuine connection that is on level ground. And I think I got to understand him. I mean, we'd been together for 5 years, but when he said, well, I'm not going to leave you. I mean, if your mom needs care, we're going to do this. Let's go. And then to watch him literally take care of an elder who he's not related to, who he's not getting paid to take care of, but he's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And he's not doing it necessarily for me. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And he loves me, but he loves us. He loves who we are. And for all of the healthy, right reasons, that to me was something that a husband would do more so than my rock star bandmate,
Exactly.
And I think that definitely was a changing point in my level of trust and understanding of who he was, to know that the depth of who he is and the service that he's willing to engage in, to do the right thing.
So I'm wondering, as Katie's sharing this with us, Kurt, I'm wondering what these two worlds have been like for you. On the one hand, you've played South by Southwest. You've been up on stage in front of lots of people. You look like a rock star. You've played incredible music with various acts. And you've probably received a lot of, a lot of adulation and love from, I'm going to say love in quotes, perhaps from starstruck band fans. I'm just wondering, what have these two worlds been like? I imagine both have had their ups and downs, both being the rock star and now being relatively quiet and tapping into something very different. Can you just describe these two existences that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to start off, I think I'm happier now than I've ever been in my entire life, to be totally honest. I mean, the whole journey of getting on stage and being screamed at by people and putting yourself out there in that way, it's like, Definitely is. It's a lot of energy and a lot of like high moments. I mean, also those low moments is the opposite of that, where you're playing for the bartender and the door guy and
Yeah.
nobody else. Like everything's polarized in that. But it boils back down to the intention of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and I would say the way that I'm living my life right now is much more authentic and real, which again, as we've mentioned numerous times in this interview, is very important to everything. I mean, to live in that way actually reflects out into all the art that I'm doing and putting out there. I'd say often I'm super comfortable being more introverted. It comes out when I'm on stage, the opposite of that, and I'll let it go. But I love being a hermit out in the middle of nowhere, just in the woods, chopping wood and carrying water. I mean, I'll chop some wood, man. I love it.
Right on.
But I don't know if I'm answering your question at all. I mean, as far as like being in service, to be completely honest, it's something I've had to learn more. I think there's been a time in my life where, I would have to say I was acting more selfishly, just trying to push my career and push what I felt like I wanted to do. A lot of I. Katie is way more naturally in service to all beings. I've seen Katie heal so many people and animals and all living creatures. And it's something that I admire in her, as well as like I've learned from her. And so when this opportunity, I'll say, to like come up to the islands here and help care for her mom, it's definitely not super easy, and it's hard. And I mean, I don't know, a lot of you out there listening probably are familiar with having a parent or a grandparent or somebody with dementia. It's hardcore, and it's real stuff. And it's like, what else? We're here to care for one another, and this is for mom, and that's what we're gonna do. So it's really not a problem in that sense. And I just want to reiterate that it didn't necessarily come natural to me, but I'm very grateful to learn to be more present and help others and be more of a soul-centered being as opposed to an ego-centered being. Sort of shifting from that.
There's something so powerful as you're sharing your own narrative, Kurt, and just the arc and kind of tapping into your truth, even though you love being up on stage, that you love this even more. And there's something so poignant about hearing about Katie's mother who's having dementia, and how it must serve as a regular reminder to the preciousness of life and being tapped into your mind. And that's not something that can be taken for granted, that there's something very precious about things that we might take for granted, like waking up on one day and being able to think. So I'm just kind of I'm just taken by that, and in the depth of your existence.
It's a very spiritual experience. I mean, it really is. It's something way beyond description. Even it's so hard to explain, but it definitely brings things to a more real place. Whereas being, screamed at by fans is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful every time that happens. Because again, it sort of implies that solidarity we were talking about, and the message is getting out there. And I don't want to undermine that at all. And I want to say that there's something just so beautiful and real about just being on planet Earth and being the best you can be in that moment on planet Earth.
No, I didn't hear you in any way diminishing your stage experience. I'm sure that as a boy learning to play guitar, that you had fantasies about what it would be like if I'm up on stage. I know a lot of people have that fantasy. And, the only reason I learned how to play guitar initially was because I wanted to be able to play Stairway to Heaven and play it in front of the girls in my high school class. Like that was the reason to do it. And that changed. To be a rock star. Right. Yeah. I had Jimmy Page posters in my room, and come on.
Yeah, man. Awesome, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm just really just appreciating how you and Katie have really listened so deeply to your truths, and that truth really, I mean, I'm telling you, it shows up in your music so loud.
Fantastic.
I mean, I've listened to your music so much, and it's just real. It's just real and beautiful. And it's funny, even when you go into the Shadowlands, I always end up feeling uplifted when I listen to the music.
Good.
That's the net effect of your music on me. And I know I'm just one cluster of chemicals. So I'm just kind of wondering if we could pivot just before we have just a couple more questions. And I really appreciate your time, the two of you. What is the writing process like for you? How do you, can you kind of just kind of, do you do it when the inspiration strikes you? Do you do it even if it's not striking you? Do you do it in a cafe? Do you do it out in nature? How do you write?
Man, I wish I had a clear answer to that question. I just know that I'm just grateful when it happens. I guess I would have to say for me, it's inspirational based. I don't necessarily show up each day at my desk and be like, okay, I'm going to write a song. But sometimes it just comes through. I have my guitar and all of a sudden this riff comes and then this melody comes. And next thing you know, there's a song there. And again, I'm just grateful when it happens.
Cool. Katie?
I think for me, it's always the melody.
Uh-huh.
I always hear the melody before the lyrics, before the intention, before anything else. It's just this, it's like a little songbird that's somewhere in the ethereal plane that just hums this melody. And I'll find myself singing along to it, but I don't have words yet. So I'm just singing sounds and making up words. So I'd say the majority of my songs have been written in their original state without words in English. They're a different realm.
Uh-huh.
And then I have to figure out and translate them. I have to find, as if I'm being taught a song, and then I have to translate it into English.
Nice.
That's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So for those of you who are listening who are familiar with Sigur Rós, I believe he writes his own language. You at least do us the favor of translating the song the song into something that we can understand. And it's so interesting to hear you say that, Katie, because I've listened to your words so many times, and I do see a bird flying. I mean, that just intuitively makes sense to me. So that totally makes and I think that's amazing, you guys. I guess, yeah, I'm gonna get even a little more specific. I'm gonna go to the song "Breathe," which is just so profound. And listener, it's. I don't know that this is going to be one of the songs that's at the end of this. We will have 2 songs at the end of this interview for you to listen to. But I'm just wondering. I mean, that song is just so utterly and completely epic and perfect in every way. How did you? Do you guys remember writing that?
Man, it's interesting you're talking about that song because not many people talk about that song.
I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, that's each of us, when we do music together, we kind of take the lead on the songwriting, and that was definitely a Kurt song. And it's, in my recollection, we were living in California, and Kurt was actually going through depression.
Also known as midlife crisis.
And I remember there was this unique time period where we felt somewhat entrapped, but also felt that light of change bursting through. And so what I appreciate about that song is the juxtaposition of feeling underwater. I've always visualized being underwater and like the struggle of being withheld and in this drowning state under the water and seeking change, seeking oxygen, seeking life when you feel as though you're held down and you're stuck. And then I always see this bursting through the water and this huge gasp of much needed oxygen, of just like just needing to breathe. And I think that's definitely my recollection and relationship to that song.
Wow. You know,
Yeah,
Brene
beautiful.
Brown talks about vulnerability within in strength as being one and the same. And there's so much vulnerability that you share about feeling depressed. And it's so much vulnerability in your music, so much vulnerability in your description of going up on stage and just kind of those flutters that you get, like, will I step on the chorus pedal at the right time? And,
Right.
you know,
Well, it's
just,
all real stuff.
it's all real.
Stuff.
And it makes
Yeah.
you so much stronger by copping to it rather than just saying, yeah, it's no problem. It's just all an automatic. No, you're a human
No.
being who breathes and who has experienced depression and has allowed himself to feel those unwanted feelings and to put them into music. And as Katie was so beautifully describing, I mean, it does feel like, you know, to some extent at times when I'm listening to it, the underwater experience. And ultimately, I feel amazing after hearing the song. Like it
Cool. I'm
takes
so
me
happy to hear
down and
that.
brings me right back up.
Yeah.
And not in kind of a bipolar way, not kind of like Danny Elfman kind of do, but more of a more, but more of a just a real gentle descent and a really appropriate ascent, so that you don't get the bends on the way back up. If to use a diver,
Right. Right.
and you do it in the span of, like, I don't know, 4 to 5 minutes. I mean, it's just within 4 to 5 minutes of bringing that kind of depth
Yeah.
to the listener. Like, who does that? You guys do.
I'm gonna listen to that song. I haven't listened to that song forever. So I'm gonna check it out again today.
It's beyond belief, is all I can tell you.
You know, that record is, you know, just every once in a while, Katie and I'll be on a road trip somewhere, and then all of a sudden that record will come on, and we'll listen to the whole thing, and it's so beautiful to take space from your music for like a year or more and listen to the recording, and you're so less worried about, oh, I should have played that guitar a little quieter, or this note could have been louder, or I should have harmonized. You're done with all of that, and you can actually listen to the music as a piece. And I love that album.
Yeah, I want to also acknowledge that we're talking about recording. When we hear a really great recording, so oftentimes we think, you know, who wrote the song? What was it like for the singers? Like the musicians, they sound so great. Everything's so tight. And I would say that's about 50%, realistically 50% of what goes into it, because you have to have a good team. You've got to have good sound engineers, a good mixing engineer, and a good mastering engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And that album in particular, that song Breeze, we worked with incredible musicians. And we had our friend Bill Reynolds, who was bass player for a Band of Horses at the time. And he heard the music and he agreed to mix the album
And play bass on it.
and play bass on it. And our friend John Adair was the sound engineer during the album, and he's a pro. And we had Golden Mastering and Ventura do the mastering on it. And so I just want to acknowledge that it's such a team, and so many of those players are invisible and never get acknowledged. And
Takes a village.
And when
Such
I
a
think
great
about
point.
when I think about that album in particular, I literally think about the team instantly. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm so glad that Bill mixed it. I'm so glad that John was there to do the recordings, and
David Alderdice on drums.
yeah. And so anyway, I want to take. It has to be mentioned when we hear a good album that who you're hearing up front is only a portion of what goes into that. You know.
You know, I think what you're also speaking to is that no human, I mean, it's that cliche is true. No human is an island. I mean, when you see something incredible that was ostensibly done by one person, you know, directed by Steven Spielberg, you see all of the names of the people who actually quietly behind the scenes
Exactly
happen, or any book or anything that's great, even though the author may only have one name. I mean, it took a village. It always takes a village. And what I love about the place where the three of us met, the Science and Non-Duality Conference, which really talks about the idea of the connection of people, whether we want to admit it or not, it's there. And I love that you bring from the dark, from the shadows, the people who really made a difference in that recording that people will only attribute to you and Kurt when in fact, actually, there's an entire village behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Absolutely.
If everyone in this world was deeply connected to music that was really healthful to them, truly that was really allowing them to tap into some kind of truth that was real for them, how might the world change if everyone really, really judiciously chose their music and chose healthful music?
I think of that as medicine. Like, it's not in a judgmental way, but we are a sickened species. There's an ailment within us of unconsciousness and hunger, and we are sick, and music can be medicine. And I just see that as being this beautiful dose of medicine for the entire world.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I don't think I can really add on to that. That sums it up right there. You know, music is medicine.
Yeah, it kind of goes right back to the very first thing you said, which was that the unconscious is so receptive to music. And I was thinking of hypnosis and medicine, particularly kind of in the Native American sense, that it is medicine, not without this, and certainly without the side effects of, without any possible side effects of without many of the side effects.
Yeah.
Kurt and Katie, thank you so much for your time, your expertise, your hearts. I can't thank you enough.
Really
we
pleasure.
love you.
Thank you, Adam.
Love you right back.
Thank you.
Sweet morning light, green leaves shine on trees of light. Bees and the honey of the love we made last night. And all I do is wait for you to awaken, to see the most beautiful thing I've ever known. Sweet morning sun, shining like the golden halo of an archangel. Bow down your crown and kiss the soil. With all of creation in standing ovation. For the light you give could never go unknown. This life of love and mystery to awaken in the deepness and the dark of the unknown. Sweet morning song, nature sings a hymn in the winds of dawn. And I can hardly wait till we sing along. Remember when I first met you? We were both young and crazy. Stay up all night and sleep the day away.
Chasing some made-up story down in LA, California.
Waste all our money just to pay the rent.
It's you and me till we die, and even then we still might
Find a way somehow to the end all the way out. Don't believe the ones who die, they don't have what we got. It's you and me, alright.
We packed up, moved to Texas, seemed like a thing to do.
Got a couple of cats and found the world's best dog. The spirit remained restless, too hot, too domestic. Loaded up the animals and headed out. It's you and me till we die, and even then we still might find a way somehow to the end all the way out. Don't believe the ones who die, 'cause they don't have what we got. It's you and me, alright. We know that this won't last forever. One day we'll have to say goodbye, but at least we've got this moment here together. Lifetime and a decade later, crow's feet and silver hair, we'll greet the morning with some silly song we made.
And yeah, we lost some family, shed tears and buried friends.
Still got one cat and that world's best dog. It's you and me till we die, and even then we still might find a way somehow to the end all the way out. Don't believe the ones who die, 'cause they don't have what we got. It's you and me, alright. They don't have what we got. It's you and me, alright.
This is Dr. Adam Dorsey thanking you for listening to Super Psyched. To listen to other great episodes or to get more information about today's episode, please visit me at my website, dradamdorsey.com. That's DRADAMDORSAY.com, and click the Super Psyched podcast link.